Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Your Overseas Home webinar, Find Your Year-Round Ski Property This Summer. And I must admit, I've just been looking at some of the webcams for our favourite resorts, and I see there's still a bit of snow out there, which is pretty good for at the end of May. I think they just had a fresh snowfall on the 8th of May, so there's still a bit hanging around. But time waits for no ski resort, and eventually it will all be gone. And then where is that going to leave us? So let's talk about four-season appeal with Mark Lightfoot from SnowOnly, our fantastic snow partner, our ski property partner. Right, why don't we start off by Mark, you just introducing yourself, saying a little bit about yourself and SnowOnly, and then I'll do a few housekeeping things.
No worries. I feel like a guest on a Piers Morgan show, Chris, a regular guest. Yes, hi, I'm Mark Lightfoot. I am the founder of SnowOnly. SnowOnly is a property portal based all around ski properties. We have around 9,000 ski properties on our site. I think 9,096 today. We cover around 15 countries and probably over 280 resorts. Predominantly, we deal with a lot of buyers coming from around the globe, UK a lot, for France, obviously. So France is a big part of our inquiries, of which we will talk about today. We also do places like Austria, Italy, Switzerland, Japan, America, Canada, places like that. But yeah, I've been doing real estate now for around 25 years all around the world, and have kind of landed on skiing. I've skied in many places since I was about 4 years old, so been very lucky enough to travel around the world skiing winter and summer. So we'll kind of get in that discussion, but yeah, there's a bit of the background for you, Chris.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, we do a survey on Your Overseas Home, and we don't get many people. A fairly small percentage say that they want a ski property, but most people want a property in the French countryside. And you're thinking, well, I mean, a ski property is in the French countryside. So I think perhaps people haven't quite woken up to the fact that you can get the best of both worlds. A place to ski in the winter and get rental if you want, but all the appeal of French living and the French countryside, but just with the mountains behind you. So it's definitely a message that we need to get out to people, that you can enjoy 4 seasons in a ski property.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so look, I've got some questions after your presentation, but really we want to hear from our viewers as well. So do please put your questions into the questions tab, which you should find on your screen somewhere, and we'll see what pops up in our heads after Mark's been speaking. So over to you, Mark.
Okay, yep. If everyone bears with me, I've got a presentation for about 10 to 15 minutes just on the evolution of summer resorts. Let me just make this a little bit bigger so we can kind of click through it. So the topic of discussion today is find your year-round ski property this summer. When I worked more than 20 years ago, we were selling ski properties. Selling ski holidays, mainly in France, but it was predominantly for the 16 to 20 weeks of the season. There was never any discussion of summer activity. It was all to do with a very focused 16 to 20 weeks, generally from starting around the 9th of December up until maybe mid to late April. But that was the sole focus. So that was most people's income. So now we've kind of evolved a lot post-pandemic into year-round destinations offering hiking, mountain biking festivals and more. When I say year round, actually, I'll use that term a little bit loosely. I'll come onto it in a little bit. It's really where the summer season has kind of opened up, but they do have shoulder seasons each side. I'm sure Chris will want to ask questions about in terms of how long the summer is. So when it's year-round destination, I think it's more of an extension of your income for a period in the summer. And homeowners in these areas are increasingly benefiting from this shift. And we'll discuss a little bit more about that as I kind of go through. Here is why. So why have ski resorts shifted to some activities? Well, the climate variability. I think it's more the discussion on climate and people's maybe anxiety to where the snow is going during the winter season. Although last season, and as Chris has just pointed out, there is still snow on the 8th of May. So it has been a very, very good season in terms of the snow, but there is discussion. I think in terms of some activities, it's not necessarily defined to the snow, but more giving people more variety and the change in type of person, what they want from their mountain holiday rather than just predominantly skiing. So there is also from the owners, hotels and the ski resort, there is a demand for year-round revenue. I don't think that needs any explanation. Owners want more ROI on their investment. Hotels want more ROI on their hotel.
Well, we seem to have lost Mark. We're going to hope he comes back in the next, as soon as possible. Should be able to rejoin. So please bear with us in the meantime. So I guess in the meantime, we could just get a bit of interaction going. So what if people could tell me, it's via the questions tab, where they are thinking that they might buy a ski property. I know that we tend to cover France a lot here, but it's the Alps go on for quite a long way. So perhaps it's not France that you're most keen to buy in. So please let me know where you're thinking of buying a property. No questions coming in yet. No comments coming in yet. Should just be able to reconnect, so hopefully it won't be too long. Let me just type in and see if I can. Oh, he's coming back. I can see there's someone coming back. Oh. Might be something I have to do at my end.
I'm back.
Ah, there we are.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
I clicked right and the whole thing shut down. But okay, So we just obviously finished that slide. So apologies everyone there. So popular some activities now offered. Mountain biking parks. I mean, in Morzine, especially places like that, Morzine is an absolute hive of activity in France for mountain biking. I am testament to that. I've slammed my face into the mountain a few times in Morzine, so amazing place to go to. Zip lining, alpine slides, music and food festivals, guided hikes and nature tours, golf courses, wellness retreats, adventure parks, etc. for the family. And there are so many more activities. Actually, to be fair, just generally being in the mountains at that point and having a walk around in the fresh air and the nature. If you look at a lot of the reports from Knight Frank and Savills and SimAlps and all these people, it's all about just being in nature and being part of it. So those are the activities that are available, and some, just depending on what you're after. just to kind of expand a little bit on France, just in terms of what we cover, places that are, let's say, predominantly inquired after in terms of people's inquiries that wanting a dual season or summer activity. One of the main places that people inquire is the Dolomites in Italy. That is having a real kind of surge in terms of the access to skiing and also the access to mountain biking and just being in that part of the world. It's very rare now that people don't ask for a dual season resort. You do get the odd one, which may be somewhere like Val d'Isère that is predominantly skiing and still hasn't kind of evolved over to that summer season for a long period. But something like the Dolomites, I would have thought is as busy in the summer as it is the winter. They have the Tour de France, what is it called? The Via Ferrata, climbing routes, hiking and cycling, and it is in the UNESCO World Heritage Site. So an amazing place to be. Chamonix is a really interesting one. I lived in Chamonix for a year. Chamonix is more of a town than it is a ski resort, in my opinion. It's a very kind of spaced out ski resort with 3 ski areas: Brabant-Flégère, Grand Montet and Le Tour at the far end. But actually, I'd say it's probably the flagship resort for everyone to kind of, focus on for the amount of summer activity. Their summer activity is actually 30% more than their winter activity. So in terms of people asking for like a dual season resort, I would say that Chamonix is probably the number one of kind of where people go. And that's obviously due to the hiking, the mountain biking, the paragliding, but the Aiguille du Midi, Mont Blanc, and all the kind of tourism attractions that they have there. So I think everyone's trying to get to that point at some level, but obviously with Chamonix, it is more of a town than it is a ski resort, and it is only 50 minutes to an hour from Geneva, so that's obviously very appealing for people in terms of travel, rather than going to somewhere like Méribel, which will be 2.5 to 3 hours. And then just as a highlight, somewhere like the Engadine in Switzerland around St. Moritz, one of the most beautiful areas for the lakes in the middle and water sports. It's a stunningly amazing place. I've spent lots of summers there. Great for the kids, great to be outside. So they're kind of like 3 options, but I would say 90% of all ski resorts offer some sort of dual season anyway. The financial impacts on resorts. The diversified revenue streams is really interesting for people in terms of obviously our ability to sell properties and the year-round operations. There is obviously a reduced dependency on snow conditions for everyone that's kind of looking to go to skiing. There is still a very large appeal post-pandemic to be in the mountains rather than to be in the mountains specifically for skiing. There is, as we've kind of covered already, there's so much activity in terms of other things to do, but it's not uncommon now, which is just crazy. Before, let's say 10 years ago, there was when people were buying property, it was only about the skiing. But now we are getting inquiries now when we've spoken to people that have said they have no intention of skiing at all. They don't even like skiing, but still want to have that place in the mountains that they can have the fresh air and obviously benefit from all the summer activities. So when we're having the extension of the summer, obviously that draws in more revenue, rentals for everyone, as we've kind of discussed already. Again, Chamonix, as I said, an increase of 30% on tourism in the summer seasons. And a really important one is the ROI for property values, local economy boosted, and property values. Property values is a really interesting one for us because a lot of people are still buying it on an investment. If you're looking from an Airbnb point of view, if you add on, let's say, another 10 weeks over summer based on the revenue you can take during the summer, the ROI on your, as I said, as an investment point of view, the ROI is basically higher, which is driving the property prices up because you can get better ROIs on your investments. So that is a huge thing for people that are looking to sell their property, because some people just look at the figures and they don't really have much intention to use the property more than 1 to 2 weeks a year. So sometimes they're asking for a net income, and that net income can be boosted by the income received from the summer. So it's of huge importance to be able to drive that and not just rely on the 16 to 20 weeks of the season. Let's not forget, if we go back to the climate change, that if we're talking about the 16 to 20 weeks of the season, there is a distinct possibility that you might have a very, very bad season. If you have obviously a bad season, then the income that you get from that can be very, very low, but then can be topped up and supported by the summer season, where you don't have to, if you need to put repairs on your property, that you don't have to dip into your own pocket, because no one wants to be able to do that. You can recover that in the summer season when that didn't used to be the case. The ROI benefits for homeowners, obviously, as we're going through, is increased rental demand year round, of course. Airbnb bookings extend beyond the winter months. I've actually just been going through the process myself, because I'm going out there in June, July, and probably August, and there's so much availability or option on Airbnb, which is great, that we can even go through that process. Again, we've discussed higher property values, improved infrastructure, because obviously they're generating more revenue. Resorts invest in trails, roads, amenities, and all that benefit the community. Don't forget, in terms of community, there is also that added bit that people are spending. Some people are moving to France to live in the mountains, so they need to have year-round activities. And then the local business growth enhanced livability, because they still need everything to be open. If you're living there in the community, you want it to be a vibrant place with all year-round stuff. So there's so many benefits to the extension of the summer. Sustainability and long-term outlook. Resorts are adopting green initiatives, solar lifts, trails, and maintenance. Again, that can only be boosted when they have more money coming into the resorts. Homeowners benefit from long-term preservation efforts and eco-conscious tourism, and year-round stability, which is the lower investment risk. I do love the part here of the lower investment risk. I think there is something to say about the risk if we're just relying on the ski season, but because we have now that summer season as well that people are kind of buying into, there is a lower investment risk because it's spread out a lot more during the year. So I think that's very important when you're buying a ski property. So the conclusion is, resorts are no longer just destinations. They are dual season communities. Homeowners in these areas enjoy a better ROI, increased property value, year-round rental income, and a smart investment strategy tied to recreation and lifestyle trends. And also, don't forget the pure part of being in nature in the mountains all year round. And obviously, from a family point of view, that is hugely benefited by the school holidays, of the fact that you get your 8-week summer term for the kids, which obviously if you've got an investment property in the mountains and everything's closed, it's not really going to work for you. But the fact that there is so much to do for the kids when they're out there, it's a real destination that you can go for the 8 weeks of the summer holiday and then really benefit from your property with an abundance of things to do. So that's pretty much where we are, Chris. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, so I've been jotting down a whole bunch of questions for you. Just to go to one from one of our viewers, Joe has said, "What are the differences if we buy a property in the French Alps or the Italian Alps?" It's quite a big question.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know in what terms, but let's talk about the summer season. Is there more going on?
I think it more depends in terms of the French Alps or the Italian Alps. It's not generally per country; it's per resort. If we're talking about summer and winter, there are some places, both Italy and France, that don't really open that much in the summer. Places. So if you look at Spaskili, Teen, and Val d'Isère is kind of notorious for not having much open in the summer, but Teen has got loads of stuff open. But they're both kind of in the they're just neighbouring in terms of ski resorts. So it's more about not country but resort. So some people are my example was Chamonix. If you go to Chamonix, it's pretty much open the whole season. Whereas other resorts that are a bit more purpose built, they have kind of like a summer season of which they will then open and close, rather than a town that is obviously always open. So it really depends. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Which is your favourite season in the Alps?
Do you know, I was thinking about this before. When I went to, this is based on the fact that I've skied in a lot of places. When I went to Japan a few years ago for summer, fortunately, it was just the most stunning place. Like all the flowers had come out. It was just walking around. It was just incredible. And there was loads of stuff to do in terms of mountain biking and all that stuff. And France pretty much has the same. I don't think you can ever argue that the summer is better than the winter, because of obviously the prices that people pay to go there in the winter. The uniqueness of skiing on Christmas Day or something like that is amazing. But I do think it's kind of catching up the summer season, because of it's more the variety of activities that they have now in the summer is huge. The wellness centres, the golf courses, the mountain biking, just being in nature, obviously all the e-bikes going up the mountains and stuff. It's an amazing place to be. I mean, I think personally, for anyone that has the ability to kind of live in France and benefit from both winter and summer, is living a very good life.
And what I'm puzzled about, what I'm not picturing, is when the snow melts, does the green grass suddenly show through and it suddenly bursts into life, or is there a kind of a period where things just look a bit grey? And
I wouldn't say grey.
Hanging around a long time.
Yeah, I would say brown rather than grey.
Okay, right.
They have more. So it's typically 16 to 20 weeks in the winter season, and then as you've seen, there's still snow falling on the 8th of May. But you have, depending on when the snow kind of starts to melt, obviously it leaves the brown underneath where it hasn't seen sunlight. And then you have the snow melting on the mountains. Don't forget, in places like Chamonix and Spaskili, they have the glaciers, right? So you can still ski in the summer. Sure. It's just obviously at the top. But then you have this period, which is what they call the shoulder season. So it goes winter, shoulder season, summer, shoulder season, back to winter. And that's basically the conversion where everything then gets in the sunlight, all the flowers start coming out. So when the resorts generally open, then people go, and it just looks like the most beautiful place in the world, somewhere like Kew Gardens. So actually this year, if you look at somewhere like MGM, they open their properties from the 28th of June until the 30th of August. So it's only about 10 weeks. That's not to say that everyone does that, but that's their hotel. That's when they get the maximum occupancy in the summer. Most things tend to open a little bit more between June, so mid-June. So now we're ending the ski season, conversion May, half of June, and then we go into summer season generally until late August, early September, and then it would flip again into winter.
Okay. So we know that some resorts pretty much closed down. but some are open all the time. What about things like transport? So how do I know in advance that there's definitely going to be transport, that there's definitely going to be things open, all that?
Yeah, it runs pretty much this. Once everything's open, you can see on each website. But it runs pretty much the same as winter. All the lifts are open. All the buses are still running. For any resort that is open, it's fully open. There's not restrictions. The mountain biking, what's absolutely wonderful is that you'll get onto the ski lifts, and instead of sitting there with snow, you'll hook your mountain bike up to the ski lift in front, and then it will go up the mountain. And then you take it off, and then you'll mountain bike back down again. It just operates exactly the same. It's just without the snow. All the shops are open. You still have the same. You still have to get the last lift down at the end of the day. Yeah, very, very, very standard. Very open. Yeah, very accommodating. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the rental prices that you can charge, how much less would you say, or not less? How much? But what's the difference between what you can charge for the same property in the height of summer and the height of winter?
Yeah, that actually, I've been trying to find that out. That stuff isn't predominantly available, but there is. It is around 30 to 40% less still in the summer. Sure. That is the kind of general rule of thumb. Don't forget, in the winter, you still have these very peak dates. So you have Christmas, New Year, Chinese New Year, Russian New Year, half term. All these kind of peak dates where the spikes of how much it costs people just goes up exponentially. It's huge. Whereas in summer we don't have those peak dates. We just have that consistent 8 to 10 week period. What's interesting is that Chamonix reported last year that they had from 21-22 season to 23-24 season, there was a 47% increase in lift passes for the summer.
Okay.
Which is huge. So it shows that there's a lot of people that are trying to go there for the other things, like obviously the mountain biking and all that stuff. And to be fair to people, skiing is an expensive sport. And if you want to go to a mountain, sometimes it's a bit easier just to take your bike over there. And the prices are slightly cheaper, the accommodation's slightly cheaper, but you still get to be in the mountains. So it's becoming an affordable place for people, you know. Not everyone wants to go skiing. Like the amount of activity that there is over there to do, as we said, the water sports, just jumping in the lake, the hikes, the e-biking, the mountain biking, the food, the sunshine. It's endless. It's an incredible place to be. Yeah, fantastic.
Okay. What about getting people to, as a renter, getting people to do all the key holding, the cleaning, all those services? I imagine all still available.
Yeah, all still available, and generally those things are run by local companies anyway. Yeah, so everything's still open in terms of that. You can maximise your rental if you sign up with someone like Simalps or Knight Frank or Barnes or whatever it is. These agents, they'll kind of take care of everything in terms of the rentals anyway, and they'll introduce you to those people. So it's still very much turnkey. You don't have to get involved. Buying a ski property is basically how much you want to get involved anyway. If you want to pass those responsibilities onto someone that's in resort, so it becomes not a burden to you, or if you want to, you can take all that stuff on yourself and organize it. Very, very easy to do. It's just a matter of finding the contacts to be able to do it. But these ski resorts, they're not. There's always someone to offer a service in there. They're not so recluse that it's very difficult to get things to. They're vibrant places that have an abundance of services, and rental is at the height of all these things for owners. Basically, property and hotels drive. We just want tourism. So all those things around tourism are abundantly available to people, because that's the thing that people invest it for. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Joe has asked, could you recommend a ski area resort which also has good golf courses nearby?
Well, there's lots of them. There's a good one in Maribel. Chamonix has a really, really nice one just at the bottom of the Flégère lift. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't play so much golf. That's my brother's sport. But yeah, I think the majority of places have good golf courses. Yeah. Chamonix, as I said, I lived in Chamonix, and that's got a really nice golf course at the bottom of Flégère chairlift. And when I was in Maribel recently, I saw that the Maribel golf course, I think, was at Maribel Village, and they had an unbelievable first hole view with all the mountains around. I mean, it's a really unique place to play. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, I went to Bansko. That's got. I think there's only about 5 golf courses in Bulgaria at the time, and one of them was just by the slopes in Bansko. So
yeah. But I think to be fair, Chris, like I go on about it a lot, but it is all this kind of the post-pandemic has really pushed a lot of people to the mountains, and not necessarily to the mountains to ski. They're pushing I always kind of say SnowOnly should really be called mountains only, because it is about the people's need for fresh air, nature, outdoors, space, and all these kind of like a plethora of exercise activities, and all that kind of stuff is in abundance in the Alps, and that is generally why people are going. So there is as much appeal to go skiing, but now it's a lot more diverse, and people just, as I said, people inquire on our site and have no intention of going skiing at all. Especially when you're coming over from the likes of I don't know, Singapore, Hong Kong, or America, where you're traveling a little bit further. They tend to, one of the things that they tend to do is generate the investment through the winter season, where you can get higher prices and your ROI is a little bit bigger. And then obviously they use the property in the summer, which has a huge amount of activities and something they actually enjoy doing. So as an investment property, it just makes sense for them. But these people sometimes have no intention of skiing. They want the investment from the winter season because it creates a lot of demand, and then they use it in the summer for their families because there is a plethora of activities to do. Loads of stuff for the kids, loads of kind of holiday camps that you can go on to. So you can just, if you really want, you can put your child in a 2-week holiday camp and they can enjoy all the adventure of the mountains while you're mountain biking. It's perfect.
Yeah, and the wildlife. I mean, we're joking earlier because I'm obsessed with the idea that there's wolves in some of these mountain resorts. But not that they're a risk, but nice to know that they're returning to these places.
Well, I lived in Montenegro for a while, and if you drive down from the ski resorts, there's a few places up there where you lift up. It says animals in this area. I lifted up the sign, and one of them was bears. So there are, but. If you go to, and I've seen this so many times, if you look at all the birds when you get the people that are paragliding all in let's say Chamonix and stuff, and the birds are literally right next to them, just in the what do you call it, in the streams, just like hovering there. Like, in the thermal, it is absolutely incredible. Like, it's stunning. Like, and also don't forget with all the lakes and stuff, especially now, there's like a real emphasis on the paddle boarding that people like to do and stuff. Just an abundance of things to do.
Okay, Amanda has asked. She hopes to live around the Morzine. Leger. Oh, blimey! Sorry, I'm so embarrassed. Leger, yes, of course, but no longer ski. Buying a lift for rental or further out for better value. So should she buy near the lifts for the rental, or should she buy further away for the better value?
Oh, that would be great.
That's an interesting question.
It's a great question because it's a great question because I reckon I have this conversation with so many people all the time. Morzine is a really interesting one. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's close up. Morzine is one of the most typed in places on Google behind Paris as places to go in France. It is because it's got such a vibrant summer season, and because it's so close to Geneva, it's such a hive of activity as part of that huge ski area. The argument, obviously, of doing so if I can just explain, in Morzine there's pretty much no land left in terms of around the ski lifts, but in terms of from a developer's point of view, very difficult to get chalets that are close to the lifts, because obviously if you're buying land that is more expensive, that is ski in, ski out, then the only thing that you can do as a developer to make money is build upwards, which means you get a lot of apartments, and then for the apartments you get a higher the price per square meter is obviously a lot higher, rather than slightly being out in let's say 5 or 10 minutes away from the lift, where you get bigger land and then you get chalets of 4 to 5 bedrooms. So obviously the difference is higher rental rates for closer to the lifts, and slightly less rental rates away from the lifts. But obviously you've paid a little bit more. So it kind of equates to around the same. What I will always say is when I worked at the ski company 20 years ago, there was never anyone that ever said to me, I want a ski property that is 10 minutes away from the lift to rent it.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. If you're a family, you want ski in, ski out for a fact, because no one wants to be carrying. Although Morzine does have a very good kind of bus route, you want to be closest to the lifts as possible. If you're a ski holiday, there is a little bit of not ego, a bit of prestige to having that ski in, ski out, to be able to walking down the steps and then getting straight into the property. So I would always choose ski in, ski out if it is an option. The caveat to that is it depends if it works for your lifestyle. If you are a family that needs 4 bedrooms, it's going to cost you a lot of money to do that in an apartment that is ski in, ski out. So you might just have to, whether the budget versus what you desire works. If it's like this, it doesn't. If it works and you can afford it, then great. If not, you're going to have to move further away from the lift because it's slightly cheaper and you can get more space. That's just how it is. Chalets are always in demand, but there are quite a lot in Morzine, so you would have to be a bit price competitive rather than a ski in, ski out. The difference with obviously the ski in, ski out is that they tend to be managed by a company, whereas the chalets tend to be managed more independently, or at least allowed to be managed more independently. So you can kind of set your own rate on Airbnb and have a little bit more flexibility for when you want to use it, rather than an apartment that is very, very close to the slopes, where you're probably the development or management company probably insists that they have it for all the peak dates. That's the slight difference. Yeah.
Okay. That's a really comprehensive answer, Amanda, but you can contact Mark and get even more help. We would recommend that you get in touch if you want to buy that ski property and enjoy it all year round. I really would suggest that you get in touch with Mark. We've got that's all the questions we've got. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Mark for all his expert advice. I certainly felt inspired to look at Chamonix. In fact, I was tempted to just start Googling the price of properties to rent this summer, but I resisted the temptation. But I hope everybody found this webinar useful. If you did, please leave us a review on Trustpilot. We'd be very grateful. And all it remains to is thank you very much for viewing. Thank you very much, Mark, and good luck on your property purchase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye-bye.